Last night, you spent 40 minutes replaying a conversation that ended 3 days ago. You know the one. A comment someone made. A look that might have meant something. A sentence you said that came out slightly wrong. And there you were, at midnight, running the whole thing again. Rewording it. Rearranging it. Imagining what you should have said instead. The thing is, nothing bad actually happened. But your brain could not let it go. Here is the number that should stop you cold. Studies tracking worry across thousands of people found that roughly 91% of the things people worry about either never happen at all or turn out better than expected. 91%. You run the simulation, you brace for the outcome, and then it simply does not arrive. And yet the next worry begins almost immediately, with exactly the same urgency as the last one. Your brain learned nothing from the previous 91 times. This is not a personal weakness. This is one of the most ancient and carefully engineered systems in the human brain, doing exactly what it was built to do, in a world that no longer matches the problems it was designed to solve. Here is the first thing most people get wrong about overthinking. They assume the brain is trying to torture them. It is not. The brain is trying to protect you. It is just using a very old set of tools on a very new set of problems. Your brain is a prediction machine. That is not a metaphor. That is literally what it does. Every moment of every day, your brain is running simulations, building models of what is about to happen, scanning for threats, calculating outcomes, adjusting for risk. The neuroscientist Carl Friston at University College London has spent decades developing what is called predictive processing theory. The core idea is this: your brain does not passively receive the world. It actively predicts it. And when reality does not match the prediction, the brain treats that mismatch as a problem to solve. Overthinking is what happens when the prediction machine cannot find a stable answer. It keeps running the simulation, again and again, not because it is broken, but because it has not yet found the resolution it needs. Now ask yourself, why would a brain evolve this way? Go back 200,000 years. You are a human living on the open savanna. The threats around you are real, physical, and immediate. A predator in the tall grass. A rival group moving into your territory. A conflict within your group that could get you expelled. An expulsion, in that environment, means death. In that world, the cost of underthinking a threat was catastrophic. Miss the lion. Die. But the cost of overthinking a threat? Almost nothing. You spent a sleepless night calculating a conflict that resolved itself. The energy was wasted, but you survived. Your brain learned a very clear lesson over millions of years. When in doubt, keep thinking. When uncertain, run the simulation again. When the threat cannot be confirmed as gone, treat it as still present. The problem is that the threats have changed entirely. The modern world does not often produce lions in the tall grass. What it produces instead is unanswered text messages and the question of whether someone interpreted your silence as rudeness. Your brain cannot tell the difference. The neuroscientist Lisa Feldman Barrett at Northeastern University has shown that the brain constructs emotional experience from the same raw materials it uses to build physical threat responses. The fear of being judged is not a pale imitation of real fear. For your brain, it is real fear. The system does not have a separate channel for imaginary threats versus actual ones. It runs them through the same hardware. This is why overthinking feels urgent. It feels like it matters. Because to the part of your brain running the show, it does matter. And here's the part that makes it worse. Overthinking feels productive. This is one of the cruelest tricks the brain plays on itself. When you are lying in bed replaying that conversation, there is a small voice that says, "This is useful. You are working something out. You are protecting yourself." That voice is not entirely lying. Reflection is useful. Preparing for a difficult conversation is useful. But overthinking, the recursive, looping, endlessly repeated simulation, does not generate new information after the first few passes. It consumes enormous cognitive energy while producing the illusion of progress. So why does the loop not stop? Here is what most people never understand about overthinking. The brain does not just prefer certainty. It is physically uncomfortable without it. Uncertainty is not a neutral state for the human brain. It is a mild but persistent source of distress. The brain registers an unresolved question the same way it registers an unhealed wound, as something that requires attention until it is closed. This means the brain will often accept a bad answer over no answer at all. If you cannot resolve whether someone is angry with you, your brain will frequently settle on yes, they are, because a definitive answer, even a negative one, is less costly than sustained uncertainty. The simulation stops. The case gets filed. The distress reduces. This is why rumination can feel like relief at the beginning. The loop is the brain trying to generate closure. The problem is that most social situations do not have clean endings. Most uncertainties cannot be resolved by thinking about them harder. And so the brain keeps circling, reaching for a resolution that thinking alone cannot produce. Researcher Ethan Cross at the University of Michigan has studied this pattern closely. His work shows that people caught in a mental loop are rarely learning anything new after the first few repetitions. The loop continues not because there is more to discover, but because the brain has not received the signal it needs to stop. There is one more dimension to this that is worth understanding. People who naturally think in complex, analytical, or imaginative ways often find overthinking more intense. The same mental machinery that helps someone explore possibilities, predict outcomes, and solve difficult problems can also become trapped in endless simulations. An analytical mind runs the simulation, notices a detail that was not accounted for, adjusts the model, runs it again, notices another variable. The capacity for depth is also the capacity for getting stuck. The engine that is most powerful is also the one most likely to spin its wheels in the wrong direction. This is not a flaw in the design. It is the design working exactly as intended in the wrong environment. Which brings us back to the 91%. Your brain does not update cleanly on this information. It should logically notice that the previous worry was unnecessary and reduce the intensity of the next one. But it does not work that way. The brain treats each new uncertainty as a fresh threat. And when the worry does not materialize, the brain does not record that as evidence the threat was never real. It records it as evidence that the vigilance worked. That taking it seriously is what kept the bad outcome from arriving. You thought about it, and it did not happen. The brain calls that a win. So the loop gets reinforced. The overthinking generates the feeling of safety. The feeling of safety confirms that the overthinking was necessary. And the next time uncertainty arrives, the brain returns to the only tool it knows worked last time. There is something worth sitting with here, once you see it clearly. The part of you that cannot stop thinking about the conversation, the email, the decision, that part is not failing you. It is the oldest part of you, doing what it has always done, protecting you from threats the way it knows how. Running simulations in the dark because that is what kept every version of you alive long enough to be here. You are not broken. You are ancient. It just forgot to check whether the savannah had changed. And that reframe is not a small thing. Because most people spend years treating their overthinking as a personal failure. A sign that something is wrong with them. A habit that smarter, calmer, more disciplined people have somehow overcome. But the evidence does not support that. Calmer people have not conquered the loop. Their brains simply react to uncertainty at a lower volume. The same ancient system, just quieter. Not that they have figured something out, just that the dial is set differently. The overthinking mind is not undisciplined. It is highly disciplined. It is just disciplined toward a set of threats that mostly no longer exist in the form the brain imagines them. Understanding this changes the relationship with the loop, not by making it stop. The loop does not stop simply because you understand its origins, but understanding it removes the layer of shame that sits on top of it. And that layer, it turns out, is often what makes the loop loudest. When you stop fighting the simulation and simply recognize it, there it is, the prediction machine, doing its job, circling a threat that is almost certainly already gone, something shifts. The urgency drops slightly. The loop loses one of its primary fuels, which is the belief that you must solve this right now, tonight, before you can rest. The savannah is gone. The brain did not get the message. But now, at least, you did. Last night, you spent 40 minutes replaying a conversation that ended 3 days ago. Your brain was doing exactly what it evolved to do. It just forgot to check whether the savannah had changed.